Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the April 14th, 2021 meeting of the LaPorte County Sheriff's Merit Board to official start here. So if you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tom, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Did all board members receive a copy of the minutes from March? Are there any comments or concerns about the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve? Have a motion to have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Mr. President and board members. Thank you for being here today. We have a rather light agenda, although Major Hafferkamp is up today and he's got a very lengthy presentation to make. So in the interest of brevity, I'll move along. We do have a piece of business that we need to discuss, and it is a promotional approval request to the Sheriff's Merit Board, whereas applicant Jacob C. Payne, a member of the department eligible for promotion to the rank of regular patrolman, except as noted in waiver request Form G, if any attached, has been found to have made the highest grade in written examination, years of service grade, and service rating grade total as per reported on the LaPorte County Sheriff's Department eligibility list published by the Sheriff's Merit Board. In my opinion, he appears to have all of the necessary attributes to properly discharge his duties in the rank sought. I hereby respectfully request the approval of the board for his promotion to that rank, which would be effective April 6, 2021.
Thank you, Sheriff. Hearing that, is there a motion to approve? Have a motion for Ms. Mock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any questions? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start with our regular agenda. The first item on the agenda today concerns Deputy Jonathan Sikorsky. He's in week 14 of basic recruit training at the Northwest Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. His class has been involved in firearms training, and he recently successfully passed the shotgun qualification course. He also participated in realistic scenario-based training, which was very beneficial for him. He sends a synopsis each week to his field training coordinator and then to me as well. And we see that he picks up a lot. It's nice that he's able to, over the weekend, really digest and reflect back on the previous week, and we're impressed by how much knowledge he's gaining and how much understanding he has for his profession. As a reminder, he is scheduled to graduate Friday, April 23rd. As of today's date, we still don't know if this will be an open graduation or if it will be held virtually, so we don't know if any visitors will be allowed. As of right now, we've heard nothing. We had 11 calls for service at Franciscan Hospital in Michigan City in March. This was 4 more than what we had responded to in the month of February. And we did experience a 34% increase in calls for service department-wide from February to March. In March, we responded to 2,758 calls for service as compared to 2,060 in February. The number of crashes decreased. This is something we're very proud of, by 21%, from 86 in February to 68 in March. With that said, we do know that some of those crashes that occurred in February were the result of weather conditions and road conditions, because as you recall, we had about a 3-week period in which the weather was really quite bad. We received quite a bit of snow and ice. Our traffic stops increased in March by 77%. That's a huge increase, but again, some of that is a result of it was difficult to run traffic enforcement in the month of February. But nonetheless, the 77% increase is quite dramatic. We also issued 55 more citations in March than we did in February. We issued 600 in February and 932 in the month of March. With nicer weather, we responded to 99 complaints of reckless driving. This is something that's up statewide. We talked to our statewide partners, whether it be through the Indiana Sheriff's Association or the state police. They are receiving a considerable increase in the number of reported reckless driving instances, and most of those are a result of 911 callers on cell phones. We also assisted 135 disabled motorists. That's a lot of motorists that we're stopping to assist that are parked or disabled along the side of the road. Really proud of our deputies for doing that. That's something that is proactive and something that is on their own. The next item is the fact that our jail inspection took place on March 25th. The Indiana Department of Corrections conducts this annual inspection, and it went very well. The inspector was very complimentary of our operations and the facility, although he did note that the facility is aging. He was very complimentary of our staff, our reporting, and our services such as kitchen and medical. He also observed the cleanliness of the facility. The very positive inspection report and observation of the state inspector were the result of the leadership provided by Captain Al Odd, Sergeant John Wiltshire, and Sergeant Steve Oliver, as well as Administrative Coordinator Jeannie Croslin. Our jail remains clean, healthy, and presentable because of their high expectations and their leadership. We're very proud of the environment that they fostered in our jail. I know I've said this before each year after our inspection, but years and years ago, when I first came on the department, it seemed like preparing for the jail inspection was a 3 or 4 month long process. They would begin cleaning right around the first of the year so they could prepare for the jail inspection. There's none of that because we do cleaning on a daily basis at least 3 times a day, so we're able to upkeep it, so there's less labor involved in that. And at any given time you can walk back there into the jail and you can smell the odor of disinfectant back there and cleaning solution because that's something that they do all the time. I was back there this morning and we have inmate workers that are busily cleaning and killing germs back there, and we're appreciative of that. Deputy Austin Wells began his canine training at Von Lick Kennels in February. During his 4th week of training, which is a 6-week-long training process, it became apparent that the dog Roman had some aggression issues, and it was mutually decided that Roman would be returned for remedial training, and Deputy Wells was withdrawn from that training. Within 2 weeks, he returned and selected a new dog. His name is Guba. It's an approximately 16-month-old male Malin herd, which is a cross between a Belgian Malinois and a Dutch Shepherd. Both are attending the 6-week training program together, and they started on April 5th. Guba is a dual-purpose dog, and he's certified narcotics detection, tracking, searching, and apprehension. And as a reminder, our dogs are purchased through donations and fundraising efforts. When Roman was returned, we got a straight-up exchange, so it didn't cost us any money. We weren't penalized. There's a 1-year warranty on the dog, and Von Lick Kennels was very good. They recognized that there was an issue, too. When Deputy Wells said that he had some apprehensions, we mutually discussed it within the department, Von Lick Kennels and Deputy Wells, and decided that that was best. We just can't have a dog that shows those signs of aggression. There was some resource guarding as well, and we decided we needed to err on the side of caution. We're really pleased that for Von Lick Kennels there was no issue whatsoever. They recognized that there was an issue, and they gladly exchanged the dog. We're also pleased with the fact that Roman is going back for remedial training, and that he will be put back in service with someone else at some point. Major Haffer Campus here for a body camera project update. So Major, if you could come forward and let our Mayor Commission know where we are with that project.
Good morning. Sheriff asked me to report an update on our body camera project. As many of you know, the Sheriff's Office has been researching various companies out there that offer body cameras. This is something that we had looked into years ago, and some of you may recall years back we even had in-car cameras that unfortunately They worked. However, the company, shortly after we purchased, made an investment and purchased the camera equipment that went into the vehicles, the company went under, closed its doors, never to be heard or seen from again. And then we had issues with that caused us not to be able to get spare parts. So those cameras are gone and out of any of the cars that we had back then or now. With that being said, I talked to the sheriff several years ago and said, look, let's try to get body cameras into the department. There's several agencies throughout the state of Indiana that have gone to body cameras, as well as throughout the country. I think we can all can agree with turmoil in parts of the country and what we see out there today, that body cameras would be a benefit to our officers out on the street. With that being said, we had a representative that we met with back in 2018. His name at the time, his name is Mark Wood, and at the time he was a sales representative for Body Worn. Mr. Wood was kind enough to meet with the sheriff and I and come in and give us a demonstration on their Body Worn camera. The document I gave you is actually some information on the type of camera and the features in which the company offers. And this is the camera that we will be deploying here within the next hopefully 30 days, if not sooner. Recently, in the fall of 2020, I was asked to research and write a grant, which I did through the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute, and we were luckily awarded 1/5 of the total project cost of $130,908. The cameras themselves, to outfit 75 between merit officers and our courthouse security deputies, the total cost of that project is $654,540. Keep in mind, we are not installing in-car cameras. It's simply body cameras at this time, but the equipment that will be installed beginning on March 19th, this coming Monday, will have the capability, should the sheriff's office decide to put in-car cameras in, the equipment already installed will easily be able to hook up with that, and we'd be up and running there. So Body Worn is part of their of this project and agreement. The nice thing about Body Worn is that this purchase, it's all encompassing. There's no a la carte menu. You don't have to pick and choose and pay for this and then have to pay for this to make this work. Everything is offered. And when I say everything, everything from the camera itself, the equipment that goes into the car, the uniform retrofitting. So what that is that our existing uniforms now were collected and they're sent to Body Worn, so they will be retrofitted so that this camera will actually fit inside a vest carrier or under a uniform shirt. I know Mr. Schooley has, Long Beach went to Body Worn ahead of us, and he's actually wearing what the his outer vest carrier, how the uniform would look. So the camera itself is put away, and it's locked in with no accessibility from the public or a suspect that you might be wrestling with. We field tested some other equipment with another company. Unfortunately, that didn't work for us. The promises that were made to us when the equipment was delivered just didn't measure up, so we had sent that back. But when we field tested those at the time, one of the number one complaints was the camera was exposed and it was accessible, so that when you're arresting somebody, the likelihood of it coming off of its mount, which at the time was a magnet, obviously did nobody any good. Falls to the ground, then it's not capturing the intended video that you're hoping to capture. So we elected not to utilize that. With Body Worn, again, it's all tucked away. You don't see it. It's not necessarily visible. So it's protected. The likelihood of it coming off its mount within the vest carrier or the uniform is slim to none. So the uniforms were sent to Body Worn. They are being retrofitted as we speak. They'll retrofit up to 5 existing uniforms per deputy, as well as include a $200 credit towards new uniforms for each of the deputies that will be deploying cameras. So that's a nice feature. With with that being said, on March 31st, we had technicians out from Body Warrant that did a site survey and a study for signal testing to ensure that we would have the adequate reception through Wi-Fi connections, which I'm happy to report we do, so that when these cameras are deployed, they're up and running and we don't have any issues. Those passed with flying colors. And on April 19th, which is Monday, Body Worn sends technicians out to start installing the equipment necessary in our cars. That'll include it's called a rocket comm system that our body camera technology will be attached to, and that would include triggers that are lights, emergency lighting equipment that would be attached. They're triggers so that the camera itself will come on from an action the deputy may do. Turns his emergency lights on, it triggers the camera. If they open their door, it would trigger the camera. Braking, if they're in a pursuit, they brake hard, or for possibly crash purposes. We can show and demonstrate through the technology that their brakes were applied, they attempted to avoid maybe a collision or an object. All those things are useful down the road should you need them. April 19th, the technicians come in and begin this installation into each of the vehicles. All merit deputies, including courthouse security, will have the cameras deployed to them. Each deputy issued a vehicle will have their vehicle outfitted. Testing will be done once those cameras and the equipment are installed, in hopes that we can deploy at the end of May or sometime in June. On the 24th of May through the 28th of May, the department will undergo pre-deployment training. So techs will come out, trainers will come out from Body Worn, and they'll do in-house training for everybody to allow each officer to get a hands-on feel for the equipment, learn how to use it, how to save and document video evidence that would be required to be saved, and make sure they're comfortable with everything before we deploy them out in the field. I have to say, this is technology, Sheriff. I'm sure you would agree, and everybody in this room, the safety that this camera itself is going to provide, I think, is worth every penny that we're going to spend on this. There's a feature in there that's a officer down feature, and the real nice thing about that is that if an officer goes down in a horizontal position, it automatically dispatches to everybody the officer's location as to where he's at. And it begins a live stream that allows people to see that have the system where this particular person at. And it runs off a GPS, so we can go directly in and find who's down. Even if they're nonverbal and can't communicate, we can get to them. And it's been tested and it's been proven that officers that have been assaulted and have been down for a time period, they've been saved because officers were able to respond and find them exactly where they were at, which is a good feature because in the event somebody's away from their car, we don't want to go save the car, we want to save the officer. So it'll send us it'll pinpoint exactly where they're at that we can respond to. This time, that's all I have. There are a few things we're finishing up on in hopes that we can deploy these at the end of May or early June. A lot of that has to do with our policy, just to make sure our policy's solid before that's pushed out. And as I mentioned, the sheriff, we probably won't deploy these until our policy's been vetted by legal counsel. And once we know that is solid, then we'll begin to deploy them. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple questions, Major. The storage, I know that was always an issue before with the data storage.
Yes, sir.
Is this inclusive with the contract with Body Worn? How's that going to work?
It is. So over a period of 5 years, the next 5 years, the total project cost has been structured so that we can make annual payments for the equipment. And part of that is the storage costs. There are no prior equipment we had to have an in-house server to store all this video. And there's a lot of video that could potentially be stored in a year's time. This is all cloud-based, so any video captured would automatically go to the cloud and be saved. The nice feature in body-worn's technology is that it will, officer records something that may be of evidentiary value, and we're going to ask that that be saved. We can set this up in the system so that this video can be classified automatically by the parameters in which we set. And once it's classified, it'll dump itself to the cloud. It'll know the retention schedule that it needs to go under. And the nice thing is that a traffic stop could be made, and that would be one category that the deputy would categorize as video as, but then let's say during the course of the stop, he's investigating, through his investigation, he finds narcotics, he finds weapons. This, when the video is stored, it'll classify itself to the longest or the highest categorized retention base, so that if they find weapons or they find something else, it's automatically going to dump into that classification so that it retains the longest scheduled possible, so we don't lose that video. And those are things that I've been in contact with the prosecutor as to the length of time that videos, depending upon what type they are, if they're going to go to trial, and most things that do go to trial, this is evidence that are obviously going to be discoverable, is going to be included. We want to make sure that's preserved for the necessary length of time and not be destroyed somehow.
You also mentioned that body-worn was doing some retrofitting of the uniforms and that.
Yes.
Is this going to be something that as we progress forward, that new uniforms that are ordered will automatically have that, or are they going to have to go to body-worn to be fitted for the unit? How's that going to work, Major?
No, once the retrofitting has taken place and the new uniforms that they would supply the credit towards have been issued out, anything after that, there are uniforms that are BWE, body-worn equipped, so that what body-worn now is retrofitting, because we don't have them in our uniforms, would come ordered that way. So if a guy needs a new uniform shirt, we order the shirt through Star, who we use, and it's already built into the product itself. It's shipped out, and they're up and running.
Okay. The last question I have, you mentioned courthouse security. What's going to be the trip for them? To trip the camera to go on. I mean, obviously it's not going to be lights and siren or brakes. So
good question. So each of the cameras that are going to be deployed, including courthouse security, there will be an SD card that is in the camera. There's also one in the rocket system. So the rocket that's in the car, let's look at it as an all-encompassing bubble that the officer sits in. So the rocket comm in the car is their uplink to the cloud with the signal. Now, if they leave that car and they run away, they're going to get outside of the bubble. The SD card in the camera will just expand that bubble. So any video it's capturing will automatically be sending it up as well. So they're not dependent upon that. The same with courthouse security. As long as there's a Wi-Fi connection, any video that's recorded, it'll automatically just store it and send it up at its leisure as soon as it hits the signal. So it'll be offloaded in moments time, and they won't lose anything, and that would be the trigger. So courthouse security, let's say, God forbid, they had to draw their weapon. There are other triggers that we'll set up in the system. So they unholster their weapon. There's a trigger there that detects, the camera system itself detects that weapon removed from its holster, the camera automatically starts. So those have yet to be worked out yet. We haven't got into that as far as what parameters we want to set. I'll talk to the sheriff along with the reps from body-worn, but that'll be upcoming as well, so that we can get that put into the system as to what we want it to trigger. But they would have the technology available to them so that it would trigger their cameras. There's also it's a media comm that we wear as like a wristwatch, or you can put it on your Molly, that allows you to control the camera itself, and it's remotely, because when it's in its holder, it's not accessible. And so the camera itself is simply a smartphone, and then it's dummied down by body worn and programmed for this particular purpose. That's all it can be. They can use it for. So they would remotely use it, or the triggers in which we program into the system to activate it. Then there's another nice feature I failed to mention. So if we go to, let's say we go to an area that's, there's an active shooter going on. Vehicles, those responding, any officer with a body-worn camera in our system that responds into a perimeter that's set. And when I say perimeter, let's say a 1 mile perimeter, a 500-foot perimeter, a 2 mile perimeter. You drive into that area, your camera automatically initiates. And it's left to initiate until the officer themselves cancels the recording. So it's set up so that they're already thinking about how they're going to go to the call, how they're going to set up. The last thing I want them to do is have to worry about that, but they're still going to need to be aware that, hey, this is something, an action that needs to be recorded. So it'll automatically start recording for them. Again, that's on how we set up the parameters in the system.
Major, what's the average life of these cameras? Do you know?
It's a good question. I don't have that answer at the moment, but I can get that and report back.
Yeah, and just
I would hope that we'll have no issues for the next 5 years. But I can tell you, because this is all inclusive, if one goes down for whatever reason, let's say they do get damaged for some reason, or there's a failure in the system itself, you contact body worn support, they send out a new one immediately, you send the other one back for repair or replacement altogether.
okay.
Yeah.
Microphone.
When the officer's done with the shift, what happens? Does the camera shut itself down, or does he have to shut it off?
Well, the camera's in a standby mode from the time they go out on patrol. So it's not, the camera's not constantly running, it's not constantly recording video, but there is a means that it will shut itself down. Just as the cars, once the equipment's hooked up in the cars, there's a 2-hour window, I believe, from the time the ignition's shut off, it'll slowly start powering itself down.
Right.
So the system's smart enough to know that if it's not being used, it's going to save resources and it's going to power itself down. But the cameras, I've been told that these cameras the battery themselves, you can easily get an 8-hour shift out of them with no issue. And I think there's some bleed over in case, you're out on a call that's beyond your 8-hour shift. So I think it's average 10. Mr. Schooley, you might be able to answer that, having the technology already in place.
Yeah, we work a 12-hour shift, and I generally have about a quarter of my battery left on the camera when I'm going off duty, so the 8-hour shift won't be a problem at all.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Major.
I just want to point out, too, that the Major has done an absolutely fantastic job with this project. This encompasses probably since, we know in October he forfeited vacation so that he could get the grant written. But since January or so, I would say this encompasses half or 3/4 of his time, and he is on top of it. We do have a project manager with body worn, but a lot of the boots on the ground, the work that needs to be done here locally is done by the Major. He's just done a fantastic job. We're really pleased with what he's brought to the table. You've made this project work, so thank you again for your hard work on this. As far as our policy is concerned, the Major alluded to that. That has been sent to our legal counsel, and he hopes to have additions, deletions, suggestions tomorrow. As you know, our legal counsel is also the legal counsel for the Indiana State Police, everything north of Indianapolis, so he knows best practices. But in addition, body worn is the leading body camera vendor in the United States, and they bring a lot of best practices with them as well. This is a project that many agencies are going through right now, and we want to make sure that we have a good, solid policy in place that helps to protect the public and helps to protect our deputies as well, and holds them accountable and make sure that the camera is used properly when it is supposed to be used. So we're looking forward to this, and it certainly is our hope that on or by June 1st that we're going to be going live with this. The next item on our agenda is the fact that we've nearly completed our mandatory in-service training for the year. That really is quite an accomplishment too, when you consider that we're in mid-April and we're almost already done with our state-required training. Within the last month, we've had range training and mandatory qualification, emergency vehicle operations course at Tire Rack in South Bend. I'd like to come back around to Tire Rack here in a minute. We've had online training that consisted of bloodborne pathogens, Alzheimer's and dementia, SIDS, human trafficking, autism, and mental illness. Defensive tactics is going to be offered later this spring, and we're going to also have updated training and recertification for CPR and our automated external defibrillators. When it comes to Tire Rack, we're really pleased with our partnership with them over in South Bend. They give us complete use of their road course over there, which is really beneficial for our emergency vehicle operations course. It's very realistic training with each of our deputies in their own vehicle over on that course. But not only do we have our deputies in their patrol vehicles, but everybody that's assigned a vehicle or drives a vehicle must go through that emergency vehicle operations course, including our jail employees who drive a jail vehicle. They must go through that training with the vehicle or vehicles that they drive as well, because we want to make sure everyone has the proper training. That's the one thing we do the most of, especially in patrol, is drive. And there's a lot of liability associated with that. We have some of the best instructors in the state. Captain Andy Heineck is one of our EVOC instructors, and we appreciate the time that he puts into that as well. But certainly Sergeant Scott Boswell, who's our training coordinator, he's very proactive, and he's facilitated most, if not all, of our training so far this year. And he's the reason that we've gotten it behind us, rather than waiting to the end of the year when it's everyone's trying to squeeze in their vacations, and there are many that aren't available for those trainings. But not only are we required to have the 24 hours of mandatory in-service training, we oftentimes double or triple an individual deputy, sometimes even more than that, the training that they get each and every year. We've done a lot of it online. A lot of it, obviously, because of COVID, is offered online, and that saves us the room and board travel costs associated with some of the specialized training that we have. We're very fortunate that we do the proactive training that we do. I also want to thank our range staff, which includes Major Hafferkamp, who's our range master. He and his staff have made the transition to our new 9mm weapon platform and qualification course seamless and easy. We're fortunate to have the range and the quality of range instructors that we have. After consulting with LaPorte County law enforcement leaders, we made the painful decision that we're going to have to cancel the Fallen Officers Memorial Service again this year. As you recall, we did last year as well, because of the facilities who aren't willing to accommodate our large group because of COVID concerns. And we certainly understand these schools and these facilities and not wanting large groups of people coming in. Because the weather is so unpredictable and the cost and the size of a tent that would be needed, it's just not feasible to hold an outside ceremony either. We will commemorate the day at the end of watch roll call on May 15th, which is National Police Officers Memorial Day. So we will do something that day with our dispatch center, and we'll have a simulcast broadcast with the end of watch roll call that day. We do have a letter of commendation, and this is from Captain Andrew Heineck, Sheriff Boyd, and LaPorte County Sheriff's Merit Board. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Deputy Michael Sweet in regard to a recent traffic stop. On Saturday, March 20th, 2021, at approximately 3:29 a.m., Deputy Sweet initiated a traffic stop on a vehicle in the 5000 West block of U.S. Highway 6 in Noble Township for a traffic violation. Deputy Sweet quickly realized that something didn't seem quite right with the adult male driver and the young female passenger. Deputy Sweet conducted a roadside investigation that ultimately led to the discovery that the 14-year-old female had left home without anyone knowing it in the middle of the night, and she'd been picked up by the adult male who she met on social media. Deputy Sweet's intuition as a police officer and a father himself led to undoubtedly saving the young girl from an unsafe environment. The girl was reunited with her parents, who were thankful for Deputy Sweet's intervention that night. Given the current climate of predators and their ability to mask themselves amongst us much easier with tools such as the internet, I feel that Deputy Sweet is to be commended for going the extra step to protect one of our most vulnerable citizens on this seemingly routine traffic stop. Thank you for allowing Sergeant Berger, Sergeant Arnold, and I to recognize Deputy Sweet for his actions. Respectfully submitted, Captain Andrew Heineck. I agree. It's amazing the work that Deputy Sweet did. He went beyond the traffic stop, which is something that we preach and something that our deputies do routinely. When you consider that this happened at 3:29 in the morning in rural Noble Township, just north of Union Mills, and he's out, he's looking for violations, he's looking for potential crimes that are afoot, and he saw a vehicle commit a traffic violation, and some say that maybe we're stopping too many cars, but in a case like this, he stopped a car and he potentially saved a life. And he recognized right away through his training and experience that something wasn't quite right. We don't know what would have happened had that traffic stop not been made, or if he just decided to issue the driver a citation or a warning and didn't go beyond the stop. But we're quite certain that he probably saved her from peril, because undoubtedly the driver was up to no good and there was a crime that was afoot. So we commend him. This has gone in his personnel file, a permanent personnel file, and we thank him for a job well done. You'll see that the next Merit Commission meeting is Wednesday, May 12th at 9 a.m., and there is a pension board to immediately follow that. The Warrants Division, Detective Bureau, and Jailing Monthly reports are attached. I do want to bring your attention to the jail report and the monthly Warrant Division activity report. You'll see again how busy our Warrants Division is. They received 281 warrants in the month of March. They served 172, which is more than 5 a day, 7 days a week. And they also completed 28 extraditions. So they were on the road a lot, and our folks are serving a lot of criminal warrants. You can see how many are coming in, and even though they serve a lot, they're barely keeping up. You also, when you consider year to date, we've received 615 new criminal warrants from our courts, and we've served 388. Our FAST team is very instrumental in that, and certainly our patrol division, but this does not count the number of warrants that we serve that are out of county, in which we find somebody a fugitive from justice here in LaPorte County, hold them in our jail until that other agency can come get them. These are just our warrants that are issued by LaPorte County courts. And then the jail report, which follows. One of the things, the first thing that I look at, and I'm aware of this anyway, is the assaults on staff, which was 0. We're really pleased with that number. The number of meals that we served last month, 25,000. We're serving a lot of meals. We continue to be COVID-free. We did have 3 employees last month in the jail that had COVID, but they have since returned from their quarantine, and they're healthy and well. We've got no quarantined, or I shouldn't say quarantined, but we've got no positive inmates right now within our jail. We had hoped this week or next to receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for our inmate population, but if you've seen the news, you've seen they've put a hold on the Johnson & Johnson. The reason that we really like the Johnson & Johnson, it's the one-shot immunization. That's really important for a correctional facility like a jail, because we've got such a transient population where if we offer the 2-shot series, which we may very well do, there's a good chance that we offer the first shot and immunize an inmate, and that inmate is subsequently released by the time they get their second shot. Oftentimes they don't follow up with the health care that we provide them when they're jailed, and there's not much of an expectation that they will follow up and get their second shot if they're subsequently released. That's why the Johnson & Johnson was so ideal. But nonetheless, we're exploring our opportunities or our options, and QCC, which is our medical health care provider in our jail, they are going to be providing those immunizations, and we are in talks. I talked to Captain Ott this morning, and they're exploring what they're going to do at this point. But it is something that is a priority for us. And any other of our staff that has not been immunized, they're welcome to get that as well. QCC said that they would administer it for any of our staff members, but certainly they're welcome to attend the COVID clinics that are occurring here in the county. At this point, that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
I just have one question. Just curious how the driver that Deputy Sweet stopped, how he was charged? You can say?
At this point, it's an open and an ongoing investigation, so I can't.
Okay.
Are there any comments from the floor? Any comments from the floor? Hearing none, are there any comments from the board? Mr. Officer down there, you got anything for us, Jim? Tom, don't forget to turn your mic on.
No, sir. No, sir.
Ms. Mock? Mrs. Franciscan? Wow, okay, that
None
was
at this
quick.
time.
Okay, I would like to, I'm very, very pleased, and that's probably an understatement, at the progress that's being made on the upcoming promotional process that's going on. The sheriff and the major and I have met with Mike Lindsay, I believe at least twice, if not 3 times, going over this, and I talked to the major this morning, and I personally cannot be happier with the direction that Mike is going. He's been very open with his direction that he wants to take. There's some things that we're working on that we can discuss at a later time, but he has the first and foremost goal and mission is to get our people ready to be the best supervisors that they can be, giving them the tools that it's going to take to move up in rank. And we, as you all know, have an obligation, and we're going to continue with it, the merit board, to continue to offer the transparency as much as possible. Once the interviews are completed, we will once again offer anyone that wants to come in and talk to us about the interview. We spoke with Mike Lindsay. He is also willing and wants to come in after the test has been administered to talk to the deputies, to answer any questions that they have on it. We even offered to do that via Zoom or something like that, and he was kind of pushed back on that. He said he'd rather just come in and do it face to face because he gets a better reception and he can get a better feeling for what's going on. So that's the type of person that we're dealing with Mike Lindsay, and I am just incredibly excited to wait and see end results, the feedback from those that are taking the test, going for the promotions. The one thing that, in my opinion, really stands out is that we have 29 people in this department that are going for promotion. We have 6 going for major, 8 going for captain, and 15 going for sergeant. So I believe in my 12 years on the merit board, that's probably a high of number of people that have shown interest in going for promotion. If not, it's real close to it. So there's some tasks ahead of us. I think Mr. Lindsay's up to that challenge, and I know the board's up to it as well. And I just want to wish all the deputies that are going through this process the best of luck, and we'll continue to follow through with that. Is there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion to have a second. All in favor signify by aye. Opposed, same. Meeting adjourned at 9:45 a.m. Thank you.